I sent the message right before takeoff. Flight lands at 3 p.m. Can someone pick me up? No emojis, no exclamation points, no drama, just a simple question in the family group chat. 72 hours earlier, I had buried my husband's military funeral overseas, folded flag, 21 guns, and a silence so heavy it almost cracked my ribs. I wasn't asking for sympathy. I was asking for a ride home. The reply came before we even reached cruising altitude. My brother, we're busy, try Uber. 2 minutes later, my mother, you should have planned better. No, how are you? No, we're so sorry. No, we're proud of him. Just that clean, cold, fast, like rejection had become their native language. I stared out the window as the plane climbed through layers of cloud, each one whiter, quieter, emptier than the last. Grief doesn't always sound like crying. Sometimes, it sounds like realization, like the moment you finally understand family doesn't always hold you. Sometimes, they hold the knife. I typed back 2 words, no worries. Not angry, not hurt, just done. I slid my phone into airplane mode and closed my eyes. When we landed, I didn't look around for anyone. I didn't wait near baggage claim like I used to. I just walked past the families hugging, the kids waving signs, the boy in uniform being kissed by a girl who looked like she'd been waiting a lifetime. I walked straight to the curb. A black SUV was already parked there, doors open, engine running. 3 Marines stepped out, 2 women, 1 man, full dress blues, polished shoes, shoulders squared. They didn't need to say a word. They didn't come to pity me. They came because they knew what it meant to show up. One took my bag, another held out her hands for the folded flag, reverent, steady. I nodded, tightening my coat against the cold wind. No one from my family was there, but somehow, I wasn't alone. The door shut behind me, the hum of the highway filling the silence where love should have been. I didn't cry, I didn't text back. Because sometimes, the loudest message you can send is the one written in absolute silence. The drive from the airport was quiet except for the hum of tires on wet asphalt. Outside, the city was still dressed for Christmas, windows glowing gold, families spilling out of restaurants, laughter that didn't belong to me. I watched it all pass by like a movie I'd already seen too many times. When we stopped, it wasn't at my mother's house. It was at the cemetery. My husband's flag was still folded in my lap, the corners sharp against my fingers. The Marine who'd escorted me overseas opened my door. Take your time, ma'am. The air smelled like pine and gunpowder. I knelt beside the fresh earth, brushing away snow from his name. Liam Monroe, 34, husband, soldier, gone. I whispered, you'd laugh if you saw how they reacted. The wind answered for him, soft, almost kind. I stayed there until my knees went numb, then stood, spine straight, the way he taught me. I'm done waiting for them, I said to no one. They made their choice, now I'll make mine. That night, I checked into a small hotel near the base. A TV flickered in the corner, the sound low. I opened my phone again, not to the family chat, but to a private contact list. Old unit numbers, media addresses, veterans associations. My fingers moved before my heart could stop them. I sent 3 messages, not out of revenge, out of truth. The next morning, while my mother probably scrolled through her phone pretending not to notice my silence, I met with a reporter. A woman named Erin, ex-military journalist, eyes sharp, voice steady. You sure you want to do this? She asked. I don't want revenge, I said. I want people to know what silence looks like. She nodded once, hit record, and let me speak. I told her about the flight, the flag, the unanswered text. She didn't interrupt, just listened. By that afternoon, she'd sent me a draft of the segment. I didn't expect her to use it, but she did. That evening, while families sat around dinner tables, while my brother scrolled social media pretending I didn't exist, the 9 p.m. news began. Today, a widow returned home from her husband's overseas military funeral alone, but not unnoticed. The camera cut to footage of me stepping out of the SUV, the flag in my arms, the Marines behind me, forming a silent wall. No words, just presence. Then my handwriting appeared on screen, a note Erin had asked me to write, and left with the station. If you ever find yourself standing alone at the edge of grief, don't look for the ones who left you there. Look for the ones who show up anyway. R.M. 16 seconds, that's all it was. But in living rooms across the city, in my mother's kitchen, in my brother's apartment, forks hit plates, wine glasses slipped, phones lit up. They saw it, they knew it was me, and for the first time in my life, I didn't need to explain a thing. The news clip spread faster than I ever imagined. By morning, it was everywhere, shared, reposted, dissected. The widow who walked alone, one headline called it. Another said, "A daughter's silent message." I didn't post a single thing. I didn't have to. The world did it for me. At 8:17 a.m., my brother texted. "Didn't realize it was that serious. You should have said something." As if grief needed an RSVP. As if burying the man I loved overseas was just poor communication. I stared at the screen, typed a reply, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. Finally, I sent 4 words: "You made your choice." Then I put the phone face down and let the silence speak for me. By noon, my mother had joined the performance. She posted an old picture, me and my brother, maybe 6 and 8, sitting at a 4th of July parade, waving flags. Caption: "Family first. Always." I didn't comment. I didn't have to, because the top reply came from someone else. "Didn't you just leave your daughter at the airport?" Hundreds of likes, dozens of shares. The internet doesn't forget, and this time, it was on my side. That afternoon, the station called again. The segment had gone viral, and they wanted to follow-up interview me, not just film me walking in silence. I almost said no. I didn't want sympathy. But then I remembered something Liam once told me before deployment. If the truth hurts, it means it's still healing something. So I said yes. The studio was small, quiet, almost reverent. One camera, one microphone, one anchor with kind eyes who didn't rush. She asked gently, "What happened when you landed?" I took a deep breath. "I buried my husband with honor," I said, and came home to silence. The room went still. Even the cameraman stopped shifting his feet. I told them everything: how I sent one message, how I got 2 colder replies than the air at the tarmac, how no one came. How instead, 3 Marines showed up for me without needing a reason. I didn't name names, I said, my voice steady. I don't need to. The people who know, already know. Blood doesn't make someone family, presence does. That line became the headline. Blood doesn't make family, presence does. By the time the interview aired that night, my phone was flooding with messages from strangers, veterans, widows, people who said they too had come home to empty driveways and quiet kitchens. I answered a few, then stopped. Because the silence in my family chat had become louder than any apology. By morning, my mother left the group. My brother renamed it from family to just group. And me? I archived it. Because once you've stood alone at an airport curb and survived it, you stop waiting for people to become who they should have already been. The story kept spreading beyond my control, beyond my city, beyond the people who'd once pretended I didn't exist. Veterans' pages shared the clip. Military spouses posted my quote on their feeds. Someone printed it on a t-shirt. Blood doesn't make family, presence does. A week later, a letter showed up in my mailbox. No return address, just neat handwriting that looked careful, practiced. Inside was one line. "I saw you on the news. My husband never made it back. You made me feel less alone." I sat there holding that note for a long time, realizing what had started, as silence was becoming something else. A voice multiplied through thousands of strangers who understood. Local news reached out again, then podcasts, then veteran networks. But I didn't want to be a headline anymore. I wanted to do something real. So I started with a name, The Welcome Project. It began small, just me, a laptop, and an idea. To make sure no one ever came home to nothing. Airport pickups, meal trains, check-ins. Not sympathy, support. Within 3 days, volunteers signed up from 5 different states. Someone donated a van. Another offered her event space for free. By the end of the week, we had our first team standing at JFK Airport with a handmade sign that read, "We've got you." That photo went viral. Again. And then my phone rang. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice cracked by the second sentence. "I didn't know how to help. I thought you didn't want us there." I didn't delete it right away. I just listened once, quietly, then pressed erase. Not out of anger but peace. Because I didn't need her explanation anymore. Some wounds don't close because someone apologizes. They close when you stop bleeding for people who kept watching you drown. A few days later, another message came in, this time from an unknown number with a small donation receipt attached. No name, just the words, "For the Welcome Project." But I knew who it was, my brother. And for once, I didn't reply. This wasn't about guilt anymore. It was about truth, the kind that builds vans, holds signs at airport gates, and stands in the gaps where family should have been. Sometimes you don't burn bridges. You just build better ones somewhere else. 2 months later, the world started calling it a quiet revolution. The headline on the front page read, "From Grief to Ground Crew, How One Widow Changed What Coming Home Means." Beneath it, a photo me with my arm around a young woman holding a folded flag, eyes red but smiling. That morning, I got a text from an unknown number, just a screenshot of the article, no message. I didn't need one. I knew it was my mother. That night, I was invited to speak at a memorial for military families. Not a speech, not a performance, just a story. The air smelled like candles and rain. Dozens of faces looked up, some proud, some shattered. I took a breath and said, I came home alone, but I didn't stay that way. I talked about Liam, his letters, his laugh, the way he'd once said, "If something ever happens to me, don't let silence win." And I hadn't. When I stepped off stage, a woman stopped me near the aisle. Pearls around her neck, tears in her eyes. "My daughter was on your first Welcome Project pickup," she whispered. "You saved her." I didn't know what to say. I just held her hand. Then, behind her, I saw them. My mother, my brother, standing beneath a tree at the back. They hadn't been invited. They didn't move closer. They just watched. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I simply let the space between us speak, filled with every word they never said, every ride they never offered, every silence that built the person I'd become. Because sometimes punishment isn't rage. It's replacement. It's being forgotten in the story you tried to erase. I used to think closure came with an apology, some final text, a confession, a call that made everything neat. But it didn't come like that. It came one night, in my kitchen, folding a Welcome Project t-shirt into a care kit for another widow I'd never met. The house was quiet. No buzzing phones, no family chat notifications, just peace. The doorbell rang, a volunteer dropping off supplies. A young couple, newlyweds, both ex-military. She hugged me like we'd known each other forever, and maybe we had not by blood, but by truth. That's when I realized I wasn't rebuilding my old life. I was building a new one. I never answered my mom's text. I never acknowledged my brother's donation. And I never reopened that group chat. Because some people bury you in their silence, and others lift you in theirs. So when another woman asks me how to survive that kind of loneliness, I'll tell her this. You don't heal by waiting for them to come back. You heal by becoming what they never were. And one day, when they see your name in headlines you didn't send them, when strangers clap for the strength they never showed up to witness, they'll finally understand. Too late. But you? You'll already be walking forward. Not alone. Never again.